All right, here it is, 7:30, 7:26 to be precise, on Valentine's Day, my favorite day of the year. And I am on the southeast side of Steamboat. I guess I could just say the east side of Steamboat, heading towards Rabbit Ears. And I haven't filmed Rabbit Ears Pass for a while, but I'm kind of wanting to get all of the passes that I go on and just have a little separate video for each one. So this could be a good day for it. It looks like a typical Rabbit Ears day. Typically, this time of day, there's not much going on Rabbit Ears. But a couple hours from now, let's see, it's 7:30, yeah. A couple hours from now, there'll be just a lot of traffic. I like it much better with less traffic. Who doesn't, really? So let's see what we can get. The road's a little bumpy. I think we got frost heaving going on underneath the highway. Everywhere's pretty bumpy. This road was dry yesterday, by the way. It is not dry now. Well, it's not bad though. But we do have a wind. I'm seeing a southwest wind down here. Yeah. And right now, it doesn't, for me, it's not intuitive, but we're heading due south. We head south out of Steamboat, and then this road wraps around, and at one point, you're actually facing northwest when you go around one of the big curves on top. So you make, it's a really neat route getting up to the top here. So typically the wind doesn't on this side, but the storm is moving in today. All right. I'm just going to go into cruise. Yesterday I came up this pass. I was heading to Fraser. The weather was really good. So I headed up this pass, but it was cold yesterday morning. So I put some cardboard in front of my radiator. And as soon as I got up on this pass, doing exactly what I'm doing now, this car started accumulating heat pretty badly. And I've never seen it do that before. But I had a piece of cardboard covering the radiator. So I stopped, I took the cardboard out, and it immediately cooled. It's amazing how cool running this little, or how good of a cooling system this little engine has. Especially in light of the fact later on yesterday, I had the occasion to take a look under the hood. And so I did, and I noticed there was something hanging off the fan. It looked like a belt. And that's exactly what it was. The way that this engine is set up, it has a serpentine belt that runs everything except for the fan. And then there's another belt that comes off the harmonic balancer, the main pulley that's attached to the crank. And runs the fan directly. Now the fan is a clutch fan, so it may or may not kick on depending on how hot it gets. When I noticed that the fan belt was funny, I checked it, I looked at it, and I tried to put it back on, and it went on too easily. And I noticed that the fan belt was stretched out quite a bit larger than what it should be. Now this is interesting. This guy is going faster because I'm coming up behind him. And that's just really stupid on his part. Because I'm going to get around him anyway. Some people are just weird about being passed. But that dude's living in his van. So I'm going to get a little bit of distance between me and this guy. So anyway, to continue my story, the fan belt has been stretched out and it does not work. It's not running the fan, period. So I have no fan. However, I'm putting as much heat into this engine as I ever will, climbing a pass, putting sustained load on the engine all the way up the hill, and the temperature gauge isn't budging. It's staying on the cool side of the center, right? Like it always does. So that tells me that I've probably not had a fan belt that's actually worked for quite some time. And it also gave me an insight to why this car is so finicky about heating. I am always adjusting the heating on this car. I adjust it. It gets cool, I adjust it up, it gets hot. I think that if that fan kicked in, it would probably regulate the temperature a little bit better. I could be wrong about that, because my temperature gauge really shows good. I mean, it's stable. That's what I mean. It's very stable. When it gets up to its point, it does stay there. In fact, until yesterday, coming up this pass, I didn't know that if the temperature gauge actually worked or not. I assumed it did, but I'd never seen it overheat. And this is in the hot summer, running air conditioning, climbing this same hill. So, although at 7 in the morning, I'm probably not running air conditioning. Well, actually, with this car I am. It's pretty hot inside, so. Okay, so now I'll go back down in here, reset my cruise. The only thing I need to watch out for at this point, well, probably the biggest thing would be people that don't have their lights on, that I can't see. The person that I passed I can't see his headlights anymore, so I don't know where he's at. And yes, I always say he. I know it could be a she, but I don't care. There are two genders, and I'm 50% right, maybe, or 50% wrong. Well, that would be 100% right, wouldn't it? Or 100% wrong. Yeah. I don't know if you could tell, but the car was drifting just for a moment there. There's a lot of snow on this road, and my snow tires are great. I love these little tires. Destination X and T's, I believe is what they are. I think I called them. Yeah, I called them by another name in one video and to had to had to edit my narration to be correct. But in thick snow, these tires aren't quite as good as they are in less snow and ice. But that's not to say that they're not good. And frankly, I don't know what tire would actually be better in thick snow. It would have to be, well, if it were studded, maybe, because that's really the issue. There's just such an amount of snow that no matter what tire it is, it can't make contact with anything. Yeah, see, there we go. That was a bit of a drift. One of these days, I'll be coming up this pass, and that riding shotgun guy will be coming down the pass. Maybe we'll be filming at the same time, assuming I do this for, any length of time. I'm still figuring this out, so I have no idea what. Yeah, that's not good. I tried to turn my back wiper on, and it's a piece of junk. It wipes enough of an area out that I can see like a 4-inch swath on the bottom. I complained about wipers before. I don't think it's made the cut, but I will complain about them again. They're pretty crappy. So rabbit ears is, it's like rabbit ears. Typically, the worst of rabbit ears isn't on this side. That guy was over in my lane pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, I'm hitting the rumble strip. So visibility is the issue, really. The roadway isn't bad. I'll put my polarized glasses on. That helps a tiny amount, but a tiny amount is nice. We like that. Okay, that's the center rumble strip. These rumble strips really are kind of nice. I'm not going to stop. Oh yeah, he's still moving. He must have spun out. That was Lucas spun out. He needs to get the hell off the road, or he's going to get hurt. Imagine that vehicle spun out and they're just getting their bearings. I did that on the other side of the pass last fall, this winter, early this winter. But, in December. Okay, now the loader needs to stay. This is pretty cool. This is how the loaders have to get this snow out of the way on rabbit ears. There's no, this is not like most of the Colorado roads where you can just run a plow on it and shove a little berm over it and not worry about it. This road is truly, probably would be more at home about 1,000 miles north and about 500 or 600 feet, or 5 or 6,000 feet in altitude. I'm seeing some big truck here. Yep, there we go, big truck. Because truck. Shit. Two big trucks. There's a passing lane here. You wouldn't notice it, but there's a passing lane here. That's why I popped around to pass. The problem is that when you can't see the road, the passing lane may be there, but if you don't have physical room, you don't. And I actually did have the room, but I had someone coming. When I pulled around the first time, that truck was right in, basically in a passing lane. Or I was in his lane, and the vehicles on my side of the road had moved over to the middle. And that's typically what happens. Vehicles are in the middle, you know. They get shoved over to the middle. Nobody wants to get stuck in a berm. Nobody wants to get stuck in a drift that will pull you off the side of the road or up into a berm. And so you got to watch that edge. And I understand that, but yeah, that made it a little bit tight getting around those people there. I'm doing about right now 47, 48. I think the road surface it would stand more speed, but I just can't see to go any faster. The whiteout conditions here for me are pretty rough. It'll be interesting to if I film this one, to look at the footage and try to compare, because I have noticed that that you have got a better view than me right now. My view, that camera for some reason will pick out more detail than I can see, which is kind of weird, because even though it's a really decent camera, high quality camera, our eyes are they're the final judge. But the camera is able to, for some reason, see what I can't see. Hold on here. Get around this dude. He's going so slow that if there was a car coming and I saw the car, I would still get around him. I think, well, the biggest danger on rabbit ears, I think, is the whiteout. When a car is up in front of you, you can't see that car until you're so close that you get on your brakes and you don't have braking, because the surface of the road is really slippery. That's probably the biggest issue. Or you go so fast that you can't make it around a corner. Typically, you don't do that when the visibility is bad. Typically, you just drive off the road when the visibility is bad. That's what people tend to do. They'll just get over a little too close to something, and that's it. They're done. So here we are on the east top side, Dumont Lake parking lot, where the sumo builders park. It's the first big parking lot on the east side. And then we start dropping elevation and we go around a corner, and there's another really nice, two parking lots actually over to the left, and there's another bathroom there. There may also be parking on the right side of the road. I'm not sure about that, but let's see, which one are we on? Okay. I'm not sure which rumble strip that was. I could have been in the middle of the road. You know what would be cool is if one rumble strip had a different spacing. Yeah, there's our turn off to the next parking. Yeah, if you had one rumble strip that had a different frequency, like say the center strip was a higher frequency than the outside strip. And how would you do that? Well, you would just change the length, change the length between each little divot in the road, and you'll change the frequency. That way, when you couldn't see it, if the frequencies were substantial enough and you've heard them, you would know. You go, okay, I'm on the center rumble strip, not on the edge rumble strip. That's really a good idea. So if anyone patents that idea, I said this idea, February 14th, 2023, and I published it, made it public for the world to use if they want. So if you try to patent that idea, you can't, because it's been published. Look at that, fox. Yep, there goes a fox. Big tail fox. I believe that was a fox. I think a coyote doesn't have that. I don't believe a coyote has that fuzzy. It was not that tail was really fluffy, big fluffy tail. Something that I notice that, and you've noticed it if you watch the way that I drive, I get around people, especially on passes. I will not ride behind somebody on a pass unless I absolutely have to. There's a reason for that. And it's not that I'm being the stupidly fast driver. It's that as soon as you get behind somebody, your visibility just cuts in half, especially on this soft snow like this. You know, this snow that's blowing around. The quicker you can get out of that situation, the better off you are. It has taken me years to formulate that thought. And it's because when you're up in this, as you're learning to drive in snow, and you're up in this situation, the last thing you really want to do is drive more aggressively on a pass than you might think you should. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you're on a pass and you're driving, people are all driving 30 miles an hour. That's sort of the accepted idea, right? People are driving 30. So if you're driving 35, then you're just, you're the stupid fast person if you drive over 35. But that's not the truth. The truth of it is that the people that are in the middle of the bell curve are not the best drivers. They're in the middle. They're mediocre drivers. And they're not really doing what they could be doing to be safer drivers. And what is that? It's getting away from a crowd of people so that you can see. It's the same issue on a freeway when there's a lot of water on it and cars throwing water up, and you limit visibility. You want to get away from that. You don't want to be in a pack. On top of that, if you're in a big line of cars and your visibility is down, your following distance is probably too close. And if you're in a big line of cars, if someone way up ahead causes a wreck, hits their brakes, then the people behind the people that are behind that car have to hit their brakes progressively harder, especially if they can't see what's going on up there. And I've been in a wreck like that on I-70 where by the time it got to me, the cars were just hitting other cars. And I actually did. I had enough distance between me and the car in front of me that I stopped without hitting the car. However, the big Lincoln Continental, I think that's what it was, behind me, he slammed into me and slammed me into the car ahead of me. So but see, look at the snow that car put up. Now, if you have 3 or 4 cars in front of you, 2 or 3, or a big truck, you have this, you've got a snowstorm that you're in that is actually artificial. Not being caused by, by nature, but being caused by vehicles. And it's a stupid thing to stay in that. That guy looks pissed. It's a stupid thing to stay in that kind of a situation when you can get out of it, have the ability to see, not risk being hit by a car behind you or running into a car in front of you. There's just every reason to get the hell away from people on a pass. And particularly in driving anyway, you really don't want to follow somebody. And, I hate following people and I hate when people follow me, but that's a reality of driving on a 2-lane road. And to pass properly, you really do have to be pretty close behind the person in front of you. And I understand that, and I have to do that, but I still get annoyed when people are on my tail, even if they're passing me. And I understand that they have to do that, but it's uncomfortable at the very least to have somebody there. So let's just see just how nasty this snowstorm is. It was bad on rabbit ears. Rabbit ears is probably, if I would give it a 1 to 10 of what I've seen, and I'm not on it every day, but I am on it every week, a couple times usually, or a few times sometimes. I would give that about a 6 or a 7 on the bad scale. It's been quite a bit worse. The last video that I took up there, where I started from the parking lot, the Dumont Lake parking lot, it was worse then than it is today. But people are driving terribly up there. I don't get it. People were really, today, people were the big problem. Well, people are usually the big problem. Visibility was bad, but the behavior of the people up there was not good at all. And you may wonder why I will stop for some people and won't for others, like that car that was just setting into lane, not moving. Or it was moving a little bit once I passed it. I believe I caught it moving a little bit. So I was less concerned about just driving off. However, in a situation like that, if I pull over and get out, that car's driving off or whatever. But now there are 2 obstacles where there was just one. and it was a kind of a bad obstacle. I was able to get around it because there was good room on either side of, well, good room on the left side of it anyway. I think that it's important not to clog up a road. If someone absolutely positively needs help, and I understand that they need help, then I'll certainly stop. And I have stopped, and I'll continue doing that. Now, theoretically, that person could have been having a medical condition. I hope not. But more than likely, probably not. More than likely, what happened was they spun out, and they were sitting there attempting to orient themselves. And, you know, when you spin out sometimes, if you spun around, I don't know what they did. I mean, I didn't see how they got to that point. But they could have been doing 360s down the road or something. So they might have been, you know, maybe not a medical condition, but they might have been pretty scared, you know. So it could have been a wild ride for them. That, you know, we missed all of that. There's a good example there. That truck in front of us, you can't really see him that well because he's throwing so much snow up. And again, I'm not saying anything that people don't know. I'm just saying that when you're driving on a pass, visibility is probably your number one issue on, you know, winter pass. And if you can stay away from cars, you know, you can avoid this kind of stuff. The 2-lane road makes it difficult. It's nice to have the passing lanes on rabbit ears, and I'm extremely glad that they push the snow out of the road and keep those lanes open, you know, pretty reasonably open, because that helps in conditions where, like I said, where we were at, the passing lane where I started to go around, and I looked because I thought it's probably not a bad idea to look and see what we got coming up. So I looked, and there was a car coming, and so I waited until the car went, and I went ahead and got over. But on rabbit ears, if they kept it really narrow, I would not have been able to do that, or I wouldn't have done it. Period. So. That's where this guy is. You know, a lot of people want to be passed. I want to be passed too when I'm not in the middle of, well, like this, and I'm doing the speed that I want to do. And I'm perfectly okay with being passed. I don't have a big issue about it. So it looks to me, and I'm glad to see that, it's lightening up a little bit, which is not to say that it's not going to keep snowing. But these road conditions are really not too bad right now. This snow isn't really packed into the road yet. There's a lot of good friction on this road still, so that's nice. Oh yes, and I get this road coming back today too. Yay, yippee! So I get to do rabbit ears later on today, and it's supposed to snow all day, so it's probably not going to be a lot of fun. The biggest change later on today, if the snow continues, will be there will be a lot more vehicles up on Rabbit Ears Pass. So it's a lot tougher to get around. And yes, I like to get around as much as possible, but when the roads crowd up and they start stacking up, it becomes impossible. You know, it becomes impossible to find a clear spot. Or to get away from other vehicles. And at that point, you just have to put up with conditions like we all do when we're driving. But ideally the conditions are if you can get out of the pack, stay away from vehicles, get around them as fast as you can, so you can see. You need to be able to see where the hell you're going. And I believe that's the safest way to deal with that pass. And so I don't think it's necessarily the slowest person on the road who is the safest. I think that is a fallacy. I actually think the slowest person on the road creates problems for other people. Obviously, the physics of crashing, the slower you're going, the less force is being applied to whatever you're hitting, and the less force is being applied to yourself. Hey, look at that. There's some sun out there. That's nice to see. That is the forest range northeast of Walden. So I'll run it a little bit longer. I have some coffee, however. I have an urge, a hankering, and I think you have to say that with the Western flavor, or it doesn't sound right. There we go. Not a lot of snow on the road, still a little bit, but enough to raise a big cloud of snow behind me. I'm sure that I'm cleaning the road off for the guy behind me, though. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. So the good and the bad news from my vantage point, the good news is that we have some sun up here. The bad news is it looks like those mountains are stacked up with clouds too. So I'm probably not going to get out of another snowy drive when I go over the pass. Oh, I caught something else the other day too. That I have been incorrect about these roads up here. I've just never really paid that much attention to them until I started filming, and then I'm trying to be accurate, and I'm finding that I'm not always that accurate. For instance, we're on 14. We'll get into Walden. Highway 125 is basically north-south. It's about 10 miles, 11 miles over to our east right now. and it heads north. We'll get on that road when we get to Walden. And when we go north out of Walden, we'll still be on 125. However, at the junction where you can turn and go to encampment in Saratoga